Picture this. Australia 1932, a land of vast landscapes and untamed wilderness. The Great War is over, but a different kind of battle is brewing on the home front. This time, it's not against enemy soldiers, but against an army of giant, flightless birds, the emus, who are causing chaos. Australia had promised land to its returning soldiers, a gesture of gratitude for their service. These veterans, scarred by war, hoped to find peace and prosperity in the wheat fields of Western Australia, a new beginning, but the land, parched and unforgiving, held a different fate for these hopeful farmers. The Great Depression hit Australia hard, and the wheat farmers, already struggling, were pushed to the brink of despair. To make matters worse, a devastating drought gripped the land, turning once fertile fields into barren dust bowls. And then came the emus, in numbers too great to count. These weren't your average birds, they were a force of nature. Emus, standing nearly 6 feet tall and weighing over 100 pounds, are the second largest birds on the planet, a formidable presence. They descended upon the farmers' fields in their thousands, hungry and relentless, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Imagine a sea of fluffy, feathered bodies, their long necks reaching like periscopes over the crops. Emus, it turned out, had developed a taste for wheat. They devoured everything in sight, trampling crops and destroying fences with their powerful legs. Farmers watched in despair as their livelihoods were gobbled up. The emus, protected by law, seemed unstoppable. They were too numerous, too fast and too tough to handle. Desperate times called for desperate measures. News of the emu invasion soon reached the government in Canberra. The farmers, at their wits' end, pleaded for help, and the government, perhaps feeling the pressure of a nation in crisis, decided to take action. The solution? Military intervention. Yes, you read that right. The Australian government declared war on the emus. The Emu War, as it came to be known, was a sight to behold. Armed with Lewis machine guns, a weapon designed for human enemies, the Australian military was deployed to the wheat belt. Leading the charge was Major G.P.W. Meredith, a decorated soldier who had fought in the Great War. He arrived with a small contingent of soldiers ready to face the enemy head-on. The plan was simple: drive the emus into a confined area and mow them down with machine guns. It seemed like a surefire strategy, at least on paper. But the emus, it turned out, had other plans. They were masters of guerrilla warfare, scattering and disappearing into the bush at the first sign of danger. The soldiers, trained for trench warfare, were ill-equipped to deal with these feathered foes. The emus, it seemed, were winning. The first encounter between the Australian army and the emu horde was nothing short of comical. The soldiers, expecting a straightforward confrontation, were met with chaos. As the machine guns roared to life, the emus scattered in all directions. They were surprisingly fast, their powerful legs carrying them across the terrain with ease. Bullets flew, kicking up dust, but the emus seemed unfazed. Their feathers, thick and downy, provided unexpected protection. Many emus were hit, but they just kept on running. Major Meredith, witnessing the futility of the situation, reported back to his superiors. The emus, he lamented, can withstand machine gun fire like a tank. The soldiers, demoralized and frustrated, found themselves outsmarted by birds. The Great Emu War was proving to be a bigger challenge than anyone had anticipated. The initial offensive against the emus was a dismal failure. The soldiers, outmaneuvered and outgunned, or perhaps outfeathered, were forced to retreat. The press, initially supportive of the military intervention, had a field day. Headlines like "Feathered Foes Outwit Army and Emus Win First Round" captured the nation's attention. The government, embarrassed by the public ridicule, ordered a reassessment of the situation. Major Meredith, determined to salvage some dignity from the debacle, devised a new plan. He proposed a more mobile approach, using trucks to chase down the emus. The government, desperate for a victory, agreed. The second offensive began with renewed vigor. Trucks armed with Lewis guns roared across the countryside, chasing after the elusive birds, but the emus, adaptable and cunning, proved to be formidable opponents once again. The emus, it seemed, had mastered the art of evasive maneuvers. They would run in front of the trucks, dodging bullets and causing chaos. The soldiers, bouncing around in the back of the vehicles, found it nearly impossible to aim. The Great Emu War, it became increasingly clear, was a lost cause. After several weeks of futile efforts, the government decided to cut its losses. The soldiers, relieved to be relieved of their feathered foes, returned to base. The emus, victorious and well-fed, continued to roam the wheat fields. The Great Emu War, a resounding defeat for the Australian army, went down in history as one of the most bizarre military campaigns ever fought. The emus, though never officially declared the victors, had successfully defended their territory. They had faced down the might of the Australian army and emerged triumphant. The Great Emu War, despite its military failure, has become a legendary tale in Australian history. It's a story that's told and retold, often with a healthy dose of humour and self-deprecation. The image of the Australian army armed with machine guns being outmaneuvered by a bunch of flightless birds is simply too good to resist. The story has become a metaphor for the absurdity of war and the resilience of nature. In the annals of military history, the Great Emu War stands alone. It's a reminder that even the most well-equipped armies can be defeated by the most unlikely of opponents. And what of the emus? They remain a symbol of Australian resilience, a reminder that this sunburnt country has a way of surprising even the most seasoned observer. The Great Emu War, while humorous in retrospect, highlights a serious issue: the delicate balance between humans and the natural world. This peculiar conflict, often recounted with a chuckle, underscores the complexities of coexistence between human activities and wildlife. The conflict arose from a clash of interests as farmers struggled to protect their livelihoods and emus sought sustenance in a harsh environment. The emus, driven by instinct and survival, invaded farmlands, leading to a battle that was as much about survival as it was about territory. The story serves as a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of human actions and the challenges of managing wildlife populations. It reveals how human interventions, no matter how well-intentioned, can sometimes lead to unexpected and often humorous outcomes. It reminds us that nature, in all its unpredictability, can often outsmart even our best-laid plans. The emus, with their surprising agility and resilience, managed to outmaneuver the farmers, turning the tables in a way that no one had anticipated. The Great Emu War also offers a glimpse into Australian history, reflecting the social and economic anxieties of the Great Depression era. During this time, the struggle for resources was intense, and the emu invasion added another layer of hardship for the already struggling farmers. The story resonates with Australians today, not just for its humour, but also for its depiction of resilience and resourcefulness in the face of adversity. It serves as a reminder of the enduring spirit of the people who faced these challenges head-on, finding ways to adapt and persevere. The legacy of the Great Emu War extends beyond the battlefield, prompting reflection on our relationship with the environment and the importance of finding sustainable solutions to human-wildlife conflicts. It encourages us to think critically about how we can coexist with nature, ensuring that both human and wildlife needs are met in a balanced and harmonious way. Imagine, if you will, the Great Emu War from the perspective of the birds themselves. These creatures, often dismissed as feathered simpletons, displayed remarkable cunning and adaptability in the face of adversity. They outsmarted the soldiers, evaded bullets, and ultimately secured their right to roam the wheat fields. From their point of view, it was a triumphant defense of their territory against a formidable, albeit somewhat inept, foe. The emus, in their own way, became symbols of resistance against human encroachment. They embodied the spirit of the Australian bush, wild and untamed. Their story reminds us that nature, in all its forms, deserves our respect. Perhaps the Great Emu War was never really a war at all, but rather a misunderstanding, a clash of cultures between two species trying to survive in a challenging environment. The Great Emu War, nearly a century later, continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. It's a story that transcends borders and cultures, appealing to our sense of the absurd and reminding us of the unpredictable nature of life. The tale has a universal charm that resonates with everyone, regardless of their background. The tale of the emu's victory over the Australian army has been immortalized in books, songs, and even a video game, These creative works ensure that the story remains alive in popular culture, continually reaching new audiences. It's a story that's passed down through generations, ensuring that the legend of the Great Emu War lives on. Grandparents share it with their grandchildren and families discuss it around dinner tables, keeping the memory fresh. So the next time you encounter an emu, take a moment to appreciate its unique place in history. This bird is not just a creature of the wild, but a symbol of resilience and an unexpected victor in a bizarre chapter of history. This seemingly comical bird, with its long legs and inquisitive gaze, played a starring role in one of the most unusual conflicts ever recorded. Its story is a testament to the unpredictability of life and the surprising turns history can take. And who knows, perhaps somewhere in the vast Australian outback, the descendants of those war-hardened emus are still passing down the story of their ancestors' victory over the hapless Australian army. The legend lives on, both in human memory and perhaps even in the emu community itself.